Tuesday morning. You're sitting in a faded green folding chair that cost $34 20 years ago. Nobody looking at it would guess it's one of the most expensive things you never replaced. Two people started with the same paycheck. 20 years later, one of them owns his Tuesdays. The other one is still making payments on a car he leased before either of them turned 30. This is the story of how that cheap folding chair quietly decided which life you ended up living. You buy the chair for $34 on a Tuesday you don't remember. Nobody remembers the day they bought a folding chair. It's aluminum, faded green fabric, the kind of thing you grab off a clearance rack because your apartment doesn't have a couch yet. You don't think about it twice. You just need somewhere to sit. Your paycheck that week is $2,240 after taxes. You split rent 3 ways, $710 each. A 2-bedroom turned into a 3-bedroom because someone put a mattress in the office. You've never had your own room with a door that locks. Not yet. That comes later, or it doesn't. You don't know yet. Your roommate mentions a number one night, casual, over dishes. Something about a brokerage account, an index fund, a Roth IRA. Words that mean nothing to you at first. You look it up, you don't fully understand it. But one phrase sticks, set it and forget it. That weekend, you open an account. You pick a total market index fund. Expense ratio, the fee the fund charges you every year, 0.03%. You don't know yet why that number matters. It will, later, a lot. You set the transfer to $150 every month. Automatic. Before you can spend it, nobody claps. Nothing changes on the screen. You just close the app and go back to unpacking boxes. This is the part nobody posts about. There's no photo for this. No caption. You didn't do anything that looks like anything. You just moved a number from one account to another and let it sit. 2 weeks later, someone from your building buys a car. Not used. New. You see it in the parking lot. Dealer plate still on it, paper temp tag taped inside the windshield. Someone mentions the payment out loud like it's a fact worth sharing. $430 a month. 72 months. You don't say anything. You just notice. You're not judging it. You genuinely don't know yet if it's a good decision or a bad one. You just know your own number. 150. Sitting quietly somewhere you can't see it from the parking lot. Your car is 11 years old. It has a sound it makes on cold mornings that you've learned to ignore. It gets you to work. That's the whole job description you need from it right now. You set the chair up on your tiny concrete balcony that Friday. You sit in it with a plate of pasta you made yourself because delivery is $11. You don't want to spend twice this week. It's not a sad moment. It doesn't feel like a sacrifice. It just feels like a Tuesday. Like a Friday. Like a life at the very beginning of being lived on purpose instead of by accident. You don't know it yet, but this is the only year the gap is invisible. Next year it starts to show, not in your numbers, in someone else's. The wedding invitation shows up in March. Cream envelope. Real calligraphy. Somebody paid for calligraphy. It's for a friend from college. Destination wedding. A resort 40 minutes outside Cancun. The group chat lights up within the hour. Flights. Hotel block. A bachelor trip 3 weeks before the actual wedding, just the guys, which somehow also costs $600. You do the math on a napkin, which is a thing you actually do now. Flight, $410. Hotel, 4 nights, $520. Gift off the registry, $150. Bachelor trip, if you go, $600 more. All in, $1,680 for 1 weekend. Your rent that month is $910. Your index fund transfer is still $150. You could do the wedding. You could. It wouldn't break you, but it would take 4 months of the transfer and swallow it whole. You sit with that for a few days. Not because you're cheap. Because you're starting to notice something you don't have a word for yet. Here's the word. Eventually. Tempo. Somebody else set this tempo. Not you. A friend got engaged, so now there's a date on a calendar that isn't yours, with a price tag that isn't yours, moving at a speed you didn't choose. And the strange part, nobody forced you into it. Nobody sent a bill. You just felt the pull of everyone else going and started reaching for your wallet before you'd even decided anything. That's the whole trick. It doesn't feel like pressure, it feels like belonging. You go. You decide to go, flight and hotel, skip the bachelor trip, buy something smaller off the registry. A version of yes that doesn't wreck the month. At the wedding, someone brings up buying a house. Someone else brings up a promotion. A guy you barely talk to mentions his new lease, a high-rise downtown. Just felt like it was time. Nobody asked him why. He offered it anyway, the way people offer numbers they're proud of. You nod. You mean it when you say congrats. You go back to your table. Later that night, you're sitting by the pool with your shoes off. And it hits you. Not sadly, just clearly. Everyone at this wedding is on somebody's timeline. A parent's, a partner's, an ex-roommate's. Almost nobody built their own. You think about the chair on your balcony. $34, still holding up fine, still just a chair. Nobody at this wedding would be impressed by it. That's fine. It was never for them. Here's a rule you don't say out loud, but you feel it settle into place, quiet, like a coin dropping into a jar. The tempo isn't yours until you notice you're running someone else's. You fly home 2 days later. Back to the same apartment, the same balcony, the same automatic transfer that went out while you were at the pool, without asking your permission, without needing it. 2 years from now, a different invitation shows up. Bigger stakes. Same question underneath it. You won't recognize it as the same question. Not yet. Your lease is up in June. Your landlord doesn't raise the rent. That almost never happens. You don't take it as a sign. You take it as luck, and you move on. But your building has a wait list now. New paint in the hallway. A dog park went in across the street. Somebody put up a coffee shop with oat milk on the menu, and the whole block feels different than it did 3 years ago. A 1-bedroom 2 floors up, just listed for $1,540. Yours, split 3 ways, is $910. You go look at it anyway, just to see. The kitchen has an island. The bathroom has a rain shower head. You stand in the empty living room and picture furniture in it. Furniture you don't own yet, in a life you don't have yet. It's not that you need this apartment. You don't. It's that once you've seen it, the one you're in starts to feel smaller than it did yesterday. That's the part nobody explains to you. Wanting more isn't always about need. Sometimes it's about exposure. You can't miss a kitchen island you never stood in. You do the math anyway, because that's your habit now. Extra $630 a month times 12 is $7,560 a year. That's 50 index fund transfers. That's 4 years of the pace you've been keeping. You don't take the apartment. 2 people at your job do take places like it that year. You hear about it at lunch, new counters, new light fixtures, a way better vibe for having people over. Nobody says the rent number out loud. People rarely do. But the numbers exist whether they're spoken or not. Here's the thing about upgrading your space, your car, your whole visible life. It doesn't cost you once. It costs you every single month, forever, for as long as you keep it. A raise doesn't work that way. A raise is a one-time jump, and then it's just your new normal. Rent is different. Rent is a subscription to a version of yourself. And once you're subscribed, canceling it feels like failing. Even if canceling it is the smartest thing you could do. You start calling this, privately, the tax nobody explains to you. Not a tax on income, a tax on appearance. You pay it every month just to keep looking like the person you upgraded into. You stay in your unit. You paint one wall yourself, a deep green, on a Sunday, with a $9 roller from the hardware store. It's not the kitchen island. It's still your space. The chair's out on the balcony again that evening. Same one. A little more faded now. You sit in it with a beer you didn't have to think twice about buying. A friend texts a photo from the new building down the block. Rooftop, string lights, a view of downtown. You should come see it sometime, the text says. I will, you type back. You mean it too. You're not avoiding anyone. You're just not chasing the same thing they're chasing. You don't know yet what the $7,560 a year turns into given time. You'll find out, but not for a few more years. You get scared of the right choice before you even know what the choice is. That happens first. The fear comes, and then the offer explains itself. The call comes on a Thursday. Regional manager, 22% raise, a city 1,100 miles away. You hang up and just sit there for a minute, phone still warm in your hand. You call your dad that night, mostly to hear what he'll say, not because you don't already have an opinion. He asks one question. The same one he's asked about every big decision since you were 16. Does it move you forward, or does it just move you? You don't answer right away. What do you mean? You finally say. I mean, plenty of people are going to call that a step up. Doesn't mean it's a step toward anything. Just means it's a step. You sit with that longer than you expect to. Longer than the raise deserves, probably, if you're being honest. You think about the apartment you didn't take at 26, the kitchen island. How good it looked for exactly the 5 minutes you stood in it. You scared of turning it down, your dad asks, or scared of what people think when you do? You don't answer that one either. You don't have to. He already knows, which is probably why he asked it. You turn it down 2 days later. Your manager's surprised, says most people take it without thinking twice. You believe her. You've watched 2 people at your company take almost this exact jump in the last year. One of them posts the new apartment online a few months later. Floor-to-ceiling windows. A view that costs money just to look at. The caption says something about a new chapter. You don't know what their expenses look like. You don't need to. That's not your math to do. You keep your job. You keep your rent. You bump the automatic transfer to $300 a month. Not because of a plane ticket and a title change, but because 4 years of consistency finally started paying quietly in the background. The gap between you and the people who took jumps like that one won't show up for years. Right now, on paper, they look ahead. You won't see the real difference for a long time. But it's already been decided. You almost buy the SUV in March, not because you need it. Your car still runs, same sound on cold mornings, same 2 turns of the key. You almost buy it because it's been a long year, and a long year makes 72 months sound like nothing. You're at the dealership on a Saturday for an oil change. You wander over while you wait. A salesman hands you the keys to a demo model, matte gray. 3rd row folded down, that new car smell they spray in on purpose. You sit in the driver's seat, you don't turn it on. You just sit there, hands on the wheel, in a car that isn't yours, in a life that isn't yours either, and for about 90 seconds, it feels like it could be. $620 a month. 72 months. He says it like it's nothing. The same way people always say it, like the number's a shirt size. You almost say yes, not out loud, just in your head, the way you almost say yes to things right before you actually do. You think about the parking lot 2 years ago, the matte black lease car. The shrug. You didn't feel envy then. You feel something closer to it now, and you don't love that you do. You ask if you can take it for a longer drive. He says sure. You drive it around the block twice, merge onto the highway once, feel it pull smooth and quiet in a way your car hasn't in a decade. You pull back into the lot. You hand him the keys. Not today, you say. He asks if you want him to run some numbers anyway, just to see. I already know the numbers, you say. You do. You ran them in your head the whole second lap. You drive your own car home. It makes the sound it always makes. You don't mind it the way you thought you would after sitting in something quieter. You don't tell anyone about the SUV. Not because it's a secret. Because there's nothing to tell. Nothing happened. That's kind of the point. You think about it again a few nights later, lying in bed, and you're honest with yourself for a second. You wanted it. Not needed. Wanted, the way you want things that would make a long year feel like it counted for something. You let the wanting sit there. You don't act on it. It fades, the way most wanting does, if you just give it a few days, instead of a signature. The tenant calls on a Tuesday in October. Water coming through the upstairs ceiling. Not a leak. A stream. You drive out that same afternoon. The roof on the duplex is done. Not damaged. Done, the kind of done a contractor takes one look at and just shakes his head. Full replacement. $11,200 minimum. And that's before anyone finds what's underneath the decking. You get the estimate on a Thursday. On that same Thursday, your phone buzzes with a market alert you almost never open. Down 8% this week, down 14% this month. The kind of drop that makes the number in your index fund look like it's been in a fight. You sit in your car in the duplex driveway for a minute, both notifications open on the same screen, $11,200, and a portfolio that just lost more than that in 6 weeks without you touching a thing. This is the part nobody shows you in advance. Not the discipline. The moment discipline gets tested by two things at once, neither of them your fault, both of them due at the same time. You don't panic. You want to be honest about that because it would make a better story if you did. You don't. What you actually feel is quieter than panic, more like your stomach dropping one floor without the rest of you moving. You call the reserve fund what it actually is for the first time. Not a savings account, a shock absorber. You built it 3 years ago for exactly this, and you genuinely didn't know until this Thursday whether you'd built it big enough. It is. Barely. $9,000 from the reserve. $2,200 from a card you pay off in full the next cycle. Because you still can. You don't touch the index fund. Not because you're brave, because you understand something now that you didn't at 22. A 14% drop on paper isn't a loss until you sell into it. You're not selling. You're not even looking again until December. The roof gets replaced in 9 days, the tenant stops calling. The market, over the next 5 months, does what it's done most times before. Historically, it comes back and then some. Not guaranteed. Just what's happened most times, over enough time, if you didn't touch it. You run the real numbers on a Sunday in December. Coffee gone cold before you notice. Index fund, $191,000. Recovered, and past where it was before the drop. The duplex, cash flowing again, $610 a month, same as always. None of it happened because of one good decision in October. It happened because of about 120 ordinary Sundays before it, building a reserve fund nobody saw, for a Thursday nobody could have predicted. A neighbor mentions over the fence that his own portfolio took a beating this fall, his words, and that he's thinking about pulling half of it into cash until things calm down. You don't tell him what to do. It's not your math to do. Here's the only rule this year leaves behind, quieter than the rest. A reserve fund isn't money you're saving. It's a decision you already made about a Thursday you haven't had yet. You think about the chair, still out on the back patio, 25 years old now. It never needed a reserve fund, it just needed nobody to throw it out. Another invitation shows up in March. Cream envelope again. Not calligraphy this time. Somebody just printed it nicely. A different friend. Second marriage, this one. First one didn't survive the house, the cars, the version of a life two people built to look right instead of feel right. Nobody says that part out loud. You've just pieced it together over the years, the way you piece most things together now. From what's missing, not from what's said. You go. Not because you feel obligated, because you actually want to be there. The venue's modest this time. A backyard, string lights, folding chairs rented from a party supply company for $2 each. You almost laugh when you see them. Faded green wasn't the color, but the shape's close enough to feel like something. You sit next to someone from the old group chat, somebody you haven't seen in years. Talk turns, the way it always does at this age, to houses. Mortgages. Somebody mentions a monthly payment that makes you go quiet for half a second. Not because it's impressive, because you know, from the way it's said, a little too fast, a little too proud, that it's tight. That the payment isn't a flex, it's a weight somebody's carrying and calling a home. It's a lot right now, the person says, laughing like it isn't. But it'll be worth it. You nod. You don't say anything. You've learned that not saying anything is sometimes the kindest response available. Later, during the toast, the groom says something that catches you off guard. Something about how the first time around, he thought the wedding was supposed to look like something. This time, he just wanted it to feel like something. The backyard. The rented chairs. The people who actually came for him, not for the photos. You think about your own chair then. $34, 17 years old now, sitting in the trunk of a newer but still unremarkable car in the driveway outside. You think about the kitchen island you never bought, the city you never moved to, the lease car you never signed for. None of those were sacrifices, not really. You never wanted most of them in the first place. You just had to sit still long enough to notice that. Here's something you understand now that you didn't at 24. Watching somebody else's life doesn't tell you much about your own. It just tells you what you're comparing yourself against, and comparison was never a good source of information. It was just the loudest thing in the room. You drive home that night with the windows down. Your kid. Yes, there's a kid now. 5 years old, asleep in the back seat, has a booster seat, older than the friendship you just watched get renewed under string lights. You don't feel like you won anything. That's not the shape this takes. You just feel like you're where you actually are, instead of somewhere you were pretending to be. You pull into the driveway that night. The chair's still in the trunk. You leave it there. Somewhere between the backyard and the drive home, you stopped checking whether you had enough. Compared to anyone, you don't remember the exact day it happened. You just noticed tonight that it already has. Some things you just stop needing to check on. You wake up on a Tuesday without an alarm. That's the whole event. Nothing else happens. You just wake up and nobody needs anything from you yet. You made this decision 2 years ago actually, on paper, in a spreadsheet, long before it became a real morning. You dropped to a 4-day week, 10% less pay. You'd modeled it against the rental income, the index fund, the slow accumulation of $150, turning into $300, turning into whatever it is now. Enough, it turns out, to buy back a day nobody else at your company gets to buy back. Your manager said yes without much of a fight. You've been there long enough, reliable enough, that the ask barely registered as a risk to her. She doesn't know about the duplex. She doesn't know about the number in the brokerage account. She just knows you're good at the job, and you ask for something reasonable. You make coffee. You sit on the back patio in the chair, still the same one, 22 years old now, held together at this point by stubbornness more than aluminum. Your kid's at school. The house is quiet in a way that used to make you anxious at 24 and now just feels like Tuesday. You don't have anywhere to be for 6 hours. That used to sound like the setup for a panic attack. It sounds like nothing now. Just time, unscheduled, yours. Here's the part nobody explains about arriving somewhere like this. It doesn't feel like arriving. It feels like a door left open, quiet, on the other side of a hallway you've been walking down for 20 years without quite noticing the walking. You check your accounts before lunch, out of habit more than need. The rental income cleared, $610, same as always, deposited while you were asleep. The index fund sits at a number that would have sounded made up to you at 22. Historical averages got you here, not a single genius decision. 22 years of a transfer that went out whether you remembered it or not. A neighbor mentions, over the fence, that he's picking up a second job on weekends. Says it casually, the way people say hard things when they don't want to make them a big deal. New truck payment, kids starting travel soccer, and travel soccer isn't cheap. Not with the hotels and the gas and the tournament fees. You don't say anything about your own setup. It's not the moment for it, and it was never the point anyway. You think, briefly, about the version of you that turned down the 1,100-mile job at 29. The version that skipped the bachelor trip at 24. The version that sat in an empty apartment with a kitchen island he didn't buy and felt for a second like he was missing something. He wasn't missing anything. He just couldn't see this Tuesday yet. Nobody can see it from that far away. That's the whole trick of it. The payoff doesn't announce itself in advance. It just shows up, eventually, disguised as an ordinary morning. Here's the only rule this whole story really needed. A quiet Tuesday is not the absence of a life. It's the proof one exists. You finish your coffee, you go back inside. There's nothing else to report about the day. That's exactly the point of it. A different store. A different city, 20 years later, but the rack looks almost exactly the same. Clearance aisle, folding chairs stacked 4 high, faded fabric, the kind nobody photographs. You're not the one standing there this time. You're just the one who notices. Somebody's kid, 22, maybe 23, home from college, working a summer job before the real one starts, is standing in front of that rack with a phone in one hand, comparing 2 chairs. One's $31. One's $89, with a cup holder built into the arm and a name brand stitched on the strap. You don't know this kid. You're just there for dog food or paint or something equally unremarkable. But you watch for a second anyway, because the moment is familiar in a way you can't quite place until it places itself. The kid picks the $89 one. Puts the other back. You don't say anything. It's not your business, and it's not really about the chair anyway. It never was. You think about your own chair, sitting on the back patio at home right now, 29 years old, held together by nothing but habit at this point. You've been meaning to replace it for a decade. You never quite get around to it. Some part of you doesn't want to. You think about the wedding at 24, the apartment with the kitchen island you never bought, the 1,100-mile job you turned down at 29, the SUV you sat in for 90 seconds and handed back the keys to, the roof that went out the same week the market did and held anyway because you built it to. None of it was really about money. That part took the longest to understand. It was about tempo. Whose clock you were running on, whether the next decision was actually yours or just the fastest way to feel like you belonged to something. You never got there by refusing to enjoy your life. You took the wedding. You bought the P1 on trips you wanted to go on, at a pace you could actually afford without flinching every time the bill came. You just stopped mistaking speed for progress. The kid at the register glances over, notices you noticing, gives a small, awkward nod. The kind strangers give each other in a hardware store parking lot. You nod back. You don't say anything. There's nothing you could say that would land the way 20 years just did on their own, without you needing to explain a single one of them. The chair never made you rich. It just kept reminding you which life you'd actually chosen. $31. Same as always. Some people find out what that's worth. Most people just find out what it costs.